Oh yeah, very nice, very nice. Dad, if you're watching this down the road, I just wanted to let you know that this weld is paying off very well. It's making pretty nice beads like these. The 3/16 plate. Very happy with it. Okay, well, we seemed to learn a little bit recently after the build of Operation Fat Tire with some of the last two parades we've been in. A couple of things to highlight. That chain guard needs to go. The brakes suck, and I'll get to that in a little bit later. Overall, I just want to introduce some quality of life upgrades with this build now that I've taken it to a couple of places and figured out what needs to go. First and foremost, I think what we're going to do is basically start over here on this side and work our way over to that side over there. I can't believe I made my own words from when I very first started on this. And I am going to refrain from adding a rear disc brake kit to the rear axle, because if you think about it for a minute, okay? The axle will lock up and then you'd be sliding on ice still, and then how else are you supposed to stop it? Now, I've been contemplating between a disc or a drum brake, and as I've said thousands of times before, the analogy I have of a disc brake is if it clamps down and locks us up, we're in trouble. Whereas I think a drum might not have that much force to lock it up, but it'll have enough efficient force to potentially stop it. We're gonna test that theory today. We are officially going hydro. This brake caliper means that I've seen how it does not work very well on the Dingo. Doesn't seem to hold its gripping and tightening pressure. So far, the hydraulic brakes have been holding up pretty well on the Dingo, and I figured, you know what? The more I understand, the more weight distribution we have back here with the trike, the more I realize we're not going to lock up that little 6-incher. If this was maybe an 8-inch disc brake, that's a different ball of wax, but I don't think, bottom line, we have to worry about that. So I came out with the old with this there, and in with the new here with this prototype 3D printed bracket. Now, essentially, this is the third revision of what I had to make, and it uses the same exact mounting holes on our disc brake bracket from the original setup. So this is just a direct bolt-on replacement here. The two holes here allow for the caliper to get mounted just on top of the caliper, something along the lines of this. If the piston will, oh, the piston's closed. Essentially, it sits on the dead top there on the caliper. Unfortunately, this hose length that came with this pre-bled kit is just short enough, so I've got this 6-foot hose sitting right here to replace it and bleed the brakes. Now, the original plan was to also stick a bit of rod here and have it jump up to this little flange here, as maybe demonstrated by this little image on screen. But after doing some testing on camera, I've concluded that if I had the hose off already, I can get the caliper out, but I can't get the caliper out of that system. So I'm just gonna have to see if 3/16 hardware or plate is just gonna be strong enough to mitigate the flex, which plastic doesn't show it, but a little bit of flex test would probably show this would be okay to have just a little bit of movement in here. So once I confirmed this, I went ahead and made some parts. So I've got this version here that you just saw me weld up here. This is the one-piece configuration that combines the two. And if this has some sort of flaw, which I don't think it will, and I'm probably going to start with this one, I have a different config that makes it two-piece. Essentially, these little locator tabs will just sit right in there, in those little squares. And then I'm just going to make sure that's all squared up, tack her on, and get her welded out. And then we will have a two-piece that also retains the bits here and here. We'll weld this on in just a little bit, but I'm more eager just to get this guy all installed and set up and on the trike, so that we can get the brake lines replaced and bled and all that fun jazz. There you go. Bit of a cap pass there. Some other stitches there. I could use a little bit of improvement, but it's kind of good to see some progress compared to some of the sketchy things I did in the past. I've probably said this before, and I'll say it again. I ain't claiming to be the best. It's just I share my progression and show that, you know, getting better at some things here and there once in a blue moon. Anyway, that's hot. That needs to cool. All right, after dinner update, and I have good news. The one-piece caliper is installed. I've got my other two-piece caliper mount all welded up and kind of cooling off here a little bit more. Basically, I did a couple of fixture welds on here, and then I grounded the backside flat. So either solution is available if we need it. But I think we're gonna start with the one piece and just have our two piece on as a backup. And if that's right, in theory, the other one should be correct, contingent that I have lined up the brackets here, but it should be able to work just fine. I also took off the old line, so now I have another 59 incher that, if I need to use for the Dingo, I've got. And I made a little bit of a mess, but I didn't disrupt the system too terribly. Most of the fluid pissed out of the caliper, so now all I got to do is take out the old brake cable and then use some zip ties to just route this the way I want it to, and then I'll go ahead and start bleeding the brakes, save you the boredom of watching me bleed them, and then we'll get her testing here soon. All right, and with that, brakes are bled in, and what's really nice is I also get a parking brake. So parking brake is engaged, and this is actually really strong. Like, I've got to move it around, so that's not going anywhere. Wasn't too bad actually bleeding these in. Got it back to where it was with the factory, and I think this is going to stop a lot better than the disc or the mechanical disc brake. I had plenty of line just to basically route it the way I liked it. Something I'll have to probably keep an eye on is this transition right here being dangerously close to that chain. Probably get another zip tie on that just to kind of help pull it back. But I got it all routed along using the original square tubes where my wire brake line went through to zip tie it to. Or I put it on, and I put it underneath the foot pegs along the neck here, hooked it up here, and this is what we got for our patient now. And the nice part of it is it accounts for our maximum pull out here with a little bit of tautness, but I don't think it's going to cause any issues. Worst comes to worst, I spin it the other way. We have to unfortunately say goodbye to this 2-in-1 module. It's not going to be used anymore. It's also going to throw away my thumb throttle, but I have a replacement singular module, and then now I can reroute my front brake to the right hand side here, and then she'll be ready to rip. Okay, so let's address another elephant in the room. So one of the other issues I was having for the last two parades, 2 in a row, mind you, was possible vapor locking. I haven't determined the official root cause, but I'm going to hypothesize that what's happening is there's too much radiative heat in this short pipe setup here, that this heated area is going back into the carb, and it's basically vapor locking the fuel, and I'm running out of fuel because when it's cooled down, it runs just fine. So I'm having some sort of overheating issues. Hopefully not in the head or anything like that, but what we're going to do is run a ram air intake I conceptualized here, but I'll get to that in a second. I'm gonna go ahead and also header wrap this and either make or buy a little heat shield that's gonna clamp onto the side and just cover this area here. But to help get rid of the air going around this, I have conceptualized this ram air intake for the trike. And I think it looks kind of cool. Well, whether or not it'll work, I'm not too sure. But one thing's for sure, it's not going to be made out of this PLA. I'm going to be using PETG. Long-term goal, once, I can get things figured out is to use a PCB way, and they're additive manufacturing with aluminum. It means it's kind of like a heat block of some sort. The idea is to have the air intake in line with the neck, and this I believe is at 100 degrees if I remember correctly. I have it loosely mocked up on here, but it fires right up at an idle. We have yet to test it to see how it does with the forced air into it. Not like turbo forced air, but just basically head-on air, which I don't know or think it's going to make much of a difference, means that the way it was clocked earlier would do the same thing. But this allows me to clock it in different ways if I really wanted to, but that's not my intent. Straight on, head on like this is what I was going for. And I thought about clocking or putting it in just a little bit closer, but then I realized, no, I need to make sure I get as much airflow as possible into here. Okay, let's see how well this brake works. Give it a roll down the hill and maybe take it a lap around the neighborhood and then bring her back and keep on going. I went ahead and swapped over my front brake to my right-hand side, installed a new throttle without having to readjust anything. Still got a nice wide open throttle. Let's see what happens. All right, let's see how she does down the hill. Okay, go ahead and just, okay, rake off, roll forward. Oh, that stopped. That stopped really nice. So then if I do this, ooh, skids a little bit. Brakes are stopping really nice. Very cool, very cool. Let's get her started up and then go for a rip after I deal with these cable ties. Let her choke for a little bit. All right, let's make this quick. Let's not get caught. Some ram air in it. See how she does. And brake. Oh, and she does lock up. Okay, good to know. And brake. Okay, powerful enough to lock up the rear. 2018 old me was kind of right. Speed. Brake. Still good. And brake. Okay. That's one way to initiate a drift then. That's it. Okay, so I got a little e-brake at the same time now. Intake seems to be doing pretty good too, so that's good. Whoa, and don't hit the truck. And off. That's all done. Sweet. Brakes work really good. Pop that guy in, call that a win. All right, well, that seemed to work a little too well, and 2018 me was probably a little bit right, but that does at least tell me that the brakes are working really good. I got a feel for the different pressures on here. If I squeeze it really hard, I will end up locking the rear axle and sliding over, so I can probably use that to an advantage as an e-brake now. But if I do it, if I feel it just right, I can come to a stop with these brakes. So that's good. That's really good. I'm happy with that. So I think I'm going to keep that, honestly, because I don't want to go back to that mechanical disc brake sitting over there knowing that I have to constantly adjust it or risk the pads not lining up straight. But I'm really happy with how this turned out. Now it's time to also deal with two things at once here. I got some more goodies to show you. I finally went ahead and I got myself a pair of dual charging coils. And to help rectify the AC voltage coming in and possibly overvolting it, I also picked up, where is it? There it is. In here, I picked up a 4-wire voltage regulator. So that will go in tandem with our charging system and help this battery survive a little bit better. Of course, I'm gonna have to knock the flywheel out. That also means I'm gonna have to pull off the clutch here, because I also wanted to finally replace this chain guard, which means I have to get the clutch out of the way, because if I want to torque the flywheel back down, I also want to put in something else, a new tool that I'm making here as well. So I got a 3/4 inch hub with a little step in it here from the local farm store, and I made this, what I like to call the crank arrest flange. Now, if you want to be cheap, if you have an old torque converter plate that has the matching bolt pattern on a 212cc, you can salvage that and make an arrest plate by doing a similar method. But essentially, I'm gonna have to put this guy on that shoulder there and then weld that around, so that when I stick this on the side of the motor, I can put 4 of these bolt holes in the side of the side cover with those 3 bolts there temporarily, and I can torque the flywheel down without spinning the crankshaft. All right, so I got it all jacked up, and I think first things first is we'll need to remove this support arm, is this portion of it. And go ahead and remove the side cover with an 8mm socket. Side cover's off. I had to move a taillight out of the way. Snuck it through all my odds and ends and tidbits, and now we've got our flywheel here and a messy, dirty coil. We're gonna have to probably take a minute to blow some of this stuff out here because it is dirty. Then introduce the Agadaga 3/4 inch. Let's loosen that off for a second. Pull the starter cup out and the fin. And then I'm gonna have to thread this back on so we don't damage our threads. And find a hammer and a pry bar and give that a whack to break off the shock. Just like that, flywheel is out and we have our singular charging coil there, good to go. Now I'm gonna have to definitely blow some of this up, wipe some of this up, because it is nasty in here from past Crescent Lake trips, I remember. And look at it. Dusty. No bueno. I don't like it. It needs to be clean. Everything's all blown up and clean, and it's a nice little night and day difference on what some compressed air can do. So now I'll go ahead and loosen up these bolts. 10mm socket. Old charge coil comes out, and I've got one on spare or for the next motor. If I get a Tillotson 212 on this, or I get an electric start Tillotson for the Dingo, because pull starting that, I mean, I don't mind, but I love the luxuries of the electric start here, but I want the performance of the Tillotson, dang it. So, you know, we'll see. Okay, I've got the new charging coils out, and it's important to note the orientation that these go in. You'll notice there's a little bit of a dimpled ring on this side here that should help self-center and align with our bolt holes here. So it's important to get those lined up appropriately. And it also came with some hardware, and I would probably advise using a medium strength blue thread locker on this, just so these don't come vibrating out and cause some rattling catastrophes in our magnetic flywheel over there. So let's go ahead and get this installed. I also want to say really quick that it also comes with this factory end, which I am just basically going to go ahead and cut off this end here, because bloop, gone they go. What I'm gonna have to do is use one of these factory wires and splice off so I can get a signal into our charge coil positive. But I think I'm also gonna have to undo this, because I don't think this red wire is needed anymore, and I could be wrong on this, because this was just from the single charge coil that goes through our diode into our other main input there. But the rectifier should already have its own set of dials, and one of the 4 wires is a positive out that we're going to try and hook up to our solenoid here, and then the 4th wire is the ground, and the other 2 go into the charge plugs themselves. But I need to keep this keep the green wire, because that green wire is my signal for my tachometer up there. So we'll see how it does. Alrighty, charging coils are bolted up nice and snug. Basically, you use the ratchet to snug them up. You don't really want to reef on these because of how small the bolts are. You don't want to snap the threads inside the block, otherwise that's a really bad day. I snuck the wiring through that last little slot there underneath the fuel tank, and I've got plenty of conversation wire here basically to splice off what I need and input everywhere else that I need appropriately here. So that's good. Quick little editor's video clip, I guess. Apparently I was mistaken as far as wiring up the tachometer on the trike here. So I saw a Facebook marketplace listing where somebody had his go-kart and a very high rev tachometer to $1,000, but the motor was built, it didn't have any magneto coils underneath the flywheel. So I'm like, hey, how did you get that to work? And he said to wire it directly to the ignition coil itself. I was skeptical of that in the past because the wiring on it said to do it to the alternator, which, you know, would probably mean the magneto coils on the flywheel, and they said don't use the spark plug wires on it. It's like, okay, but then realized, wait, this is a single cylinder engine, that this actually might work. So for giggles and craps, I bypassed into the ignition coil output here and redid my terminals. This goes out to the signal wire for the tach, so that way we're not tapping into the signal wire of one of the charge coils here. And apparently, upon starting the motor, keys on, I might have to put the choke on. We got a signal. And this is not using the magneto coil, and it's actually more of an accurate reading, honestly. Because with the magneto coil, it'll probably read about 900 RPM when that's actually at 400. So, hey, who knows, you know? And it doesn't, well, it turns the lights down just a little bit. I'm only running off of the motor right now as we speak, but it doesn't really affect the signal, because when I'm running off of the motor itself and not the battery, that would drop with the magneto coil, which is pretty stable with the ignition coil itself. And I can rev it. Pretty cool. And I can shut it off safely with no interference. But now I gotta rewire everything because now I don't have my low oil sensor. But anyway, I'll deal with that off camera. Back to our regularly scheduled program there. Okay, next up now I gotta unfortunately loosen up the chain here and try to get this clutch off. All right, well, out with the old. Motor has been loosened up. Surprisingly, the bolt was already getting ready to walk out on the clutch. Fortunately, it was not seized up on there, so that's good to see, but we're probably gonna need to get a new lock washer or get some thread locker on there. But yeah, out with the old 6+ years of chain guard. A little bit of history in here in the past, even though it's not the computer case chain guard anymore. I still question 2017, 2018-year-old me and his welding, being how far I've come to, well, you know, make this. So if the opportunity ever arises, I know what to be chewing my old self at for, and grind out these welds, fix this up, and make it right. Now let's go see if our other chain guard will fit, which I have tacked up over here. I had this designed in CAD. I was going to make it one piece, but then realized if I want access to the clutch, it'd probably be wise to make a two-piece. So the plan, this is my back plate here. Essentially, I'm going to pop in some 1/4-20 riv nuts along those bent tabs, and then that will just bolt on right there. And then I have these placeholder riv nuts here if I want to add a external mount towards the back of the seat. However, it's going to sit here in a short minute. Or if I want to place zip ties, these holes are kind of here as placeholders. We're going to have to see how it does overall and then make adjustments appropriately. The question is though, did I get the length correct? And Uh-oh. That might be a problem. So granted, also our engine is forward, so if I pull this back some ways, yeah, that is an unfortunate sight. This is exactly why you do your checking and measuring twice before, well, making that happen. So I'm gonna have to think of a different solution here, and probably tilt this down some to make it fit. Okay, bad news, good news. Bad news, originally it was brushed up against my brake line I just put in. It's tight, but if I kind of move and manipulate things around, I can make this work, and this actually helps keep the line from running into the chain. And good news, it is really tight. Like accidentally really good, really tight. So I think at this point I will use those placeholder holes as zip tie bounds just to kind of keep that on there. But I mean, this is also pretty firm as it is. So I don't think this is gonna want to bounce. Well, actually maybe it might, just a little bit there. Be flexing on it. I'm thinking about this flapping about, but beans we got bends on this side, full 90 degree. This is also going to get welted, and then these little miter joints are going to get welded. This should be held for strong. The still unfortunate downside is I won't be able to get to my bolts to say loosen this up if I needed to, for example. But the nice thing of it is I've got my chain on, and if I pull back and tighten everything, there's nothing that interferes here. And then to get the full effect, you can grab my backing plate here. Not gonna lie, it does look kind of interesting without it, but what we're really wanting is that. Okay. So yeah, we seem to clear the side cover. The holes are lining up to an extent. But that is what we're looking for, and actually looks really, pardon my French, badass. The camera can't do it justice. If you were here in person, this is kind of what needed to happen before Operation Fat Tire was completed. Maybe minus the hydraulic caliper, but even then, it's kind of one of those, come on, you gotta admit this is cool kind of deal, you know what I mean? All right, so we know that this is gonna work. I can weld this out. Alrighty. On another note, I got the flywheel assembly torqued back down. It's been a little bit, and my crankshaft arrest assembly has been working fantastic with just 2 bolts. So it's all torqued down to 55 foot-pounds, and we're ready to kind of put some things back together. And the nice little thing, everything was kept over, or held still over here. These weren't really stressed out when I was loosening them. They came right off, and they were just snug tight. And I got the rectifier mounted with this custom little bracket I made just to kind of point it in a direction that kind of looks nice and streamlined and out of the way. I almost have enough wires to get everything, but I'm gonna have to make a little extra dummy wire or something for the ground, because I'll just have to ground that to that terminal over there to get this hooked up to the system if I have no battery. But yeah, 2 of these wires will hook up to each little coil, and then my red I'm gonna throw into that starter post right there, so we've got power running everywhere else. And we'll be able to give this a test here in just a short bit. I'll save you the hassle of going through the wiring, but I'll kind of explain everything later on. But yeah. All right, time for the heart-pounding moment of truth. Everything's buttoned up, sewn it back together. I've got my wires spliced in and coupled up as a test. And if everything works, I'll do the final finishing touches of cable managing, soldering, and heat shrinking off camera and get things tied up here. But let's see if we can run our electronic system without a battery first, and and then we'll hook it up and see if it holds a charge with just idle and go from there. Let's see what happens. Key on. God help us all. And Houston, we've got a problem. I got nothing. I lose. Good day, sir. But my kill switch works. There's our culprit right there. So it is wired in a way where it's registering an output from the rectifier or the regulator, rectifier, whatever you want to call it, AC to DC converter, but it's not enough. It's only producing about half a volt at idle, and then when I give it the beans, give or take, it's probably, I don't know, just a couple of volts. So either it's the regulator, or it's the rectifier, or my set of coils. I think maybe the fact that they're kind of running in parallel might have something to do with it. So I might try, well actually no, I don't think running in parallel will make a difference because of two separate plugs. But anyway, what I might try alternatively is to buy another single coil, put that one back on as I know works, and then put it in daisy chain with that, so I have two separate coil lines coming out, and see if that makes a difference. And if not, then I might have to replace the regulator, try a different one. We'll power through it and figure something out. Okay, so it's probably been about a week and a half since I last saw you guys, and I have just been out here scratching my head, learning the majority as I go as far as getting this upgraded charging system working, and I think I have something that makes sense, but it took some time to see and realize that. I went through 3 different coil sets, 2 rectifiers, only to figure out that I guess as the electromagnetic field builds up in the coils, as the flywheel spins up, the voltage will increase coming out of the coils. At an idle, I was probably from this wire right here, which is the output of the rectifier, I found out that it was probably reading about 4, 5, 6 volts or so. But as I started to rev it up a little bit and then pause and then rev it up some more and pause and kind of just let it run, it would actually start to build up to 10, 11, and almost 12 volts. So that in theory is working and kind of doing its job, and it's metaphorically like breaking something in. So I'm probably onto something here. The other issue I figured out why my wiring wasn't working was because this is the wire, this red wire going towards my cluster was the original wire that was coming from my charge coil here and goes to the diode, so it's separate from the battery, and I could run something without a battery if I wanted to. Originally, I had the output of the rectifier go to the Raine terminal here on the solenoid, which if I had these two touching together, then the system would work. So now I just reintroduced the red wire before, and that fixed that issue. So it's still doing the same kind of fluttering lights or so, but that's what you get with trying to run a whole bunch of stuff like a little push button, toggle switch, and then a gauge cluster, which I'm not gonna have to adjust that gauge cluster because it's kind of finicky all over the place. But either way, it still kind of works. So I think now at this point, I can be somewhere where I can start to optimize and re-tidy up this wiring and get everything else back installed. But I need to also take a personal intermission and just walk away, because I've been fighting this for about a week, and then realizing, oh, I think this is intentional behavior. I just didn't see it. So by the power of magical video editing, when I come back, all this should be somewhat tidied up. And there we have it. Everything's all buttoned up, reloomed, and I also went ahead and changed the positioning of our wires here because I wasn't happy with it going under, and I bottomed out a couple of times in the past, and I didn't want these wires to get damaged. So now they'll run over the top, under the seat. Everything's all happy. And then I just went ahead and bundled all these together up here in the engine. I'm gonna leave them unscathed or basically unlubed, just because I don't think I'll be riding this out in the rain, which it's a new day. It's been pretty cloudy. It was raining a bit earlier. But yeah, everything I think is good to go. And I think I'm just gonna start taking some of these components back off camera, get them sent off the powder coat, and then we'll keep on going from that. Okay, quite a few weeks have passed and we've got some parts back from powder coat. I've also decided to reprint my Ram Air intake elbow to have this little blocky design on the outside with my logo embedded on the top here. Same dimensions and everything, just that just changed, and it actually printed a lot nicer than the official elbow, like circular one right here, if that makes sense. So I like how that one turned out, and it's much more printer friendly here, as you can see in these little snippets of clips and stuff and whatnot. But you gotta check this out though. Casey, if you're watching this someday, huge shout outs to you for doing this engraving. Basically, I gave him some little stencils, and after these were powder coated, I sent them off to him to engrave a nice little bandit logo with the trike's name, my social there, and a little significance for you newcomers there, the birth date of the trike right here on the back. When all is said and done, everything's put together, that just sits there something like that, and that looks fantastic. So it is the same Devil's Dust, dark blue. I got my exhaust hanger painted, and then we've got other bracketry, our rectifier mount, that is the same rectifier mount actually. We've got also our brake caliper mounting, both the 1-piece and the 2-piece configs. And then I think there's one more left in here somewhere. Well, maybe it's not, but it should be. It looks like it's attached to, yep, there it is right there. Just the little secondary mount for our hanger. So we're good. Let's go ahead and get these parts installed. I'll save you the details and put them back on because you've seen them several times. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in a bit here. Okay, it is quite the mess in here. Please forgive me a bit, but check this out. First thing, just off topic, clock that guy back that way, or facing this way and not that way. I tweaked my throttle a little bit because I didn't have full 100% throttle. Made some modifications and put a little notch in my bracket, so now I've got full wide open and then some throttle. We have our Ram Air intake mounted, all good to go. Sounds heavenly. This exhaust holder turned out fantastic. Chain guards in place, looks great. I had a little bit of fight with the brake caliper mount though, because I've tightened everything down and the brakes are kind of bound up right now. So I think I'm gonna have to wear the pads in again, sadly heat up the disc, but we'll see. If I loosen it, then it spins freely a lot better, and if I tighten it up, then I've got problems. So there's some adjustment error. I put a couple washers in just to kind of play around with. It's going to basically take some time. Oh, and my wiring's all re-tidied up. I'm now having my tack signal into my ignition coil. Works great. Rectifier is all mounted and installed. Looks great, fantastic. Missing the battery because I got on the charger, but other than that, I also replaced the hardware on the hill blocks and the engine. It's all impacted down. What I'm not saying I need to do is put on some fresh head wrap, and then I'm probably gonna let this thing run for a little bit, break some things in. And just like that, we have this nice black header wrap on here. Had to wear those latex gloves, highly recommended since this is a fiberglass material. It does give you the itchies real fast if you're not careful. So I'm gonna go ahead and fire this thing up for a little bit, break it in, let it simmer, heat off like it's supposed to, and yeah, we'll be golden. Well, if you made it this far into the video, first and foremost, let me say thank you ever so much for watching this video and showing the support by just, you know, being a viewer to all the way through. I'm currently out here in the garage just to give a quick little update for what is to come, as it is the day after Thanksgiving, November 27th, 2025, as I'm recording this. This part was made around July, August timeframe of this year. I've just had some things going on, getting some things secure, and just focusing on other things in life right now that are taking higher priority. So I'm hoping when I'm ready, I can be able to get you more content that's coming over. But I will want to give you a quick little update here in the garage at the end of this video here, that most of the stuff that I just put on here, well, unfortunately, we're going to take most of it off and make way for some other things, as you can see with that box sitting right there and those little boxes on top and that box on the side, and plus not to mention a couple of boxes sitting upstairs in my bedroom right now. So there's that. And also, and we're going to be, you know, after seeing some inspiration with this Tillotson motor and that CVT, you know, that might have some contributions too, because yeah, if you know, you know. So I can't wait to show you what's going to be happening with this and that, but I'm going to need some time to R&D, because for both next major parts for both this Dingo and that trike, I guess you can say I'm going in blind, but I have a little bit more familiarity with what's going on with those than I am with this. So you're very lucky to see this if you made it to the very end and haven't just clicked off yet. So if you're excited for what's to come, I want to hopefully pray and say if you're excited for what is to come, and I want to pray and say, hopefully next year, or maybe even during the winter here, definitely smash that thumbs up, and then comment down what you've enjoyed in this part, what you're excited for, and what you want to speculate on what's going to happen. But, you know, at this rate, time will tell. So other than that, guys, my name is Kane or Nighthawk, and I will see you guys in the near and hopeful foreseeable future. Peace out, and God bless.